作られたのはあの時が初めてだったな。俺に失望したんだろうさ。
反射的に体が動いたんだ。かわいそうなことをしてしまった。怖かったんだ。俺は怖かったんだよ、クリーレン。俺の弟子は、とんでもない戦士になる。
Stark was honestly kind of a surprise to me. I knew he existed before I even watched the show, but actually going through it, I found myself wondering how he'd slot into the established dynamic between Frieren and Fern. I was actually writing a video about just that, but then I got completely sidetracked once I really began digging into the adventure where he joined the party and realized just how much Stark's story is defined by strength and fear. But not just his own. Sent by Eisen to find the student he trained, Fern and Frieren find the warrior chilling in a village close to a violent dragon as basically its only deterrent. Now, we actually get quite a bit of build up to Stark, and it starts with playing tag with the dragon. A dragon so tough that dealing with it proves to be extremely difficult for the mages. And at the time of writing this script, I just finished episode 26. Frieren was either lying or Stark hits a lot harder than I thought. Either way, the villagers believe that the reason they can live in such peace is because Stark's very presence keeps the dragon away. And yet, not long after we meet him, we find that he is not the confident badass he portrays himself as. In fact, he's completely terrified. And thus, we get to see the third member of the party, and how much of a departure from the calm, collected, professional acting girls we've been following he is. I, however, immediately called bull. So did Frieren. Because as much as Stark is clearly scared of the dragon and genuinely believes it could totally kill him with ease, the fact remains that it stopped attacking after he showed up and very much stays away from him and the village. That's not nothing. I also figured the giant fissure in the mountain was his doing. Stark has a really low opinion of himself and his abilities, but literally every other character, apart from Fern at first, can tell how strong he is. Frieren knew it, the villagers knew it, the dragon knew it. Hell, Eisen knew it so much he accidentally hit Stark hard enough to leave a scar out of fear. The very first story we get out of Stark is one of bravery and fear and an exploration of what it's like to fight monsters. He and Fern, as relatively new adventurers, have recent memories of the sheer fear that being put up against such creatures can evoke. And even though they were more than well equipped to deal with what was in front of them, they got scared. Because of course they did. Have you seen what they're up against? Fern ran for her safety, but Stark wasn't in a position where running was an option. There was a whole town relying on the strength he didn't believe he had. Because when Stark was young, he'd always felt like a disappointment. And when he ran from the fight that would get his village destroyed, the fact his presence wouldn't have changed anything didn't dull the shame. And he's carried that feeling with him ever since. But now, he has the power. And now, he can actually protect the village. And to his surprise, he was able to kill the dragon in 30 seconds, something Frieren fully expected him to do. Stark had to come to terms with his fear and find the resolve to keep going. But there's another element of fear involved in Stark's character that's a lot more understated. I've seen comparisons drawn in regard to Stark and the dragon as two red beings held in stalemate by their fear of each other. But unlike Stark, the dragon was afraid because it knew it couldn't win. Stark was afraid because he was unaware of his own strength. The same can be said for the fight against Lini. He and Fern had all the tools needed to take down their demon opponents, but they didn't believe they could. But then they had to. And it was during this fight that Stark realized that his resolve to die fighting his opponent was only making things harder, because she wasn't strong enough to kill him in the first place as long as he didn't let her. Actually, that gives me an idea for another Frieren video. If that was all, it would be a good story. But there's an extra layer to Stark that makes him all the more interesting. Because in the grand scheme of things, Stark takes the place of the dragon in relation to others. Because he inspires fear in people who have no reason to fear him. The reason Eisen struck him wasn't out of anger, but fear of Stark's strength. Even later, Fern freaks out when he tries reversing her cold hand prank because of his strength. In a way, this is the same problem, but in the opposite direction. His lack of awareness of his strength makes him scared of people he can defeat, but his lack of awareness of his strength makes him unaware of how others may perceive that strength. When Stark gets scared of Fern, it's played for comedy. Because short of pulling out her magic staff, she can't actually hurt him. You know, besides emotionally. But Stark's ability to restrain her freaked her out because, well, it could actually hurt her. The fact she felt that way indicates he put way too much power into what should have been a harmless prank. It's an interesting dilemma and direction to take a character defined by how unaware he is of his own power, scared of things he shouldn't be, and scaring those he shouldn't. I wonder if they'll do more with it. Tell me your thoughts on Stark in the comments below, and while you're down there, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Thank you, and good day.